Call to order the Utilities Committee meeting for Monday, March 24th. If it would, everyone please rise for the invocation and the pledge.
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we thank you for the kind change in the weather. We ask that you keep everybody safe in Ascension Parish. Lord, on this day we ask for a special blessing on the Monchon family for the loss of past parish president Harold Monchon, excuse me. Lord, please take care of his family. See them through this. We lost a good man. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Randy. Roll call. Everyone present, Madam Secretary, with the exception of Councilman Turner. No chair's additions tonight. Item number 4, public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, come in signing with the Secretary. They'll be given 3 minutes to speak when that item is on the agenda. Item number 5, a motion to approve the minutes from the February 5th meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Joseph.
Second.
Second by Councilman Satterley. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes. We'll have an update on the Highway 73 and 42 projects. Mr. Petty.
Okay, so on Highway 73, that project is moving forward. We encountered a few slight issues with some testing. Those issues are being taken care of, and those will be retested. The project actually ran into a bit of a conflict around the Seven Oaks subdivision area with a gas line. So currently, right now, the laying of the sewer line has halted in order to kind of clarify that conflict and deal with a solution for that. However, they've been moving forward with the installation of some of the box culverts that's involved with the project. And so DOTD has moved the anticipated completion date on that project back to October 31st of this year, and indicating that the project is 52% complete. On LA 42, that project was awarded back several weeks ago. Wharton Smith will be the contractor on that. We've been in discussions right now with them, clearing up some RFIs, just kind of some general stuff as far as a little bit more information in regard to the specs and drawings. The completion date on that project is right now scheduled for December 10th of this year. However, that will more than likely move back a little bit. And so right now they're in kind of the assembly phase or mobilization phase on that project. Both projects in regard to the treatment plants, we've been in discussions with a local private wastewater treatment provider, and we're working out temporary solutions for both of those projects.
Okay. Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add something very quickly, on the Highway 73 project, I mean, the issues that have been found were due to our inspectors being out there looking very closely as things progress on the project. They've done a very good job of making sure that the specifications are followed. Any testing that proves to be insufficient, they make sure that there are corrections made. So I think for the long run, we'll have a better project, and to ensure there are no issues once the actual road construction starts and then the entire system is turned over to us. So our inspection department has done a great job of looking into those issues.
All right. Kudos to them. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to item number 7, discussion of Lemonville LCDBG state grant for sewage. Councilman Joseph, Ms. Martha Collins.
Yes, if Martha take over this, she was supposed to update us on that.
Members of the council. President Martinez asked me to come before you to kind of touch base on the old project and see what we're going to do with it. So what I thought I'd do is just recap where we were and where we are today. The original LCDBG block grant was issued in 2006, 2007. It was for $719,000, of which $600,000 was grant, and the parish was putting up $100,000 and $19,000. And that was for the engineering and for the administration of doing the application. We went through the process, got everything ready to bid. We bid it out in July of 2008, and it came in at $1.4 million, or $1,423,090. So what we did is, on the recommendation of our engineer, which was, I think, Mr. Turner, Bob was working with us on that at that time, we decided to wait a while, and we went back out for bid. For the second time, we did that January 7th, 2009. Unfortunately, it came in higher. It was $1,575,295. So when it came in over bid, and we only had the $600,000, we were asked to see if we could explore to see if we could find any additional money that would help offset the difference in what we had and what we didn't have for available funds. We actually talked to the LDEQ. They had a state revolving loan fund that we were asking them to see if they would give us a grant rather than a loan. We put in a pre-application hoping that there would be some justification to allow us to move into that. They had done that in the past, so we thought we'd give it a shot. It didn't make it. We went also looking at USDA. Now, USDA for this area will allow for you to have funds, but the process was 6 to 8 months to be able to do all the preliminary, all the application with them, and then we still wouldn't know if we got the funds or not. So when we presented that, they said, well, this is, we're going to have to try something else. We did look at the parish's budget. I think that was explored. There was no funds there that we could come up with that amount. It's over $1 million. So we were notified by Carol Newton with the LCDBG and said, you got to tell us what you're going to do with this. And we said, well, we were going out for bid, but unfortunately, the second time we came in over bid again. So they wrote us a letter and asked us to, stated that basically we'd have to terminate our contract. And we had not spent, the money we spent was for the engineering and then actually the administration for filling out the application. There were the $600,000 that was allocated, we didn't touch it. We didn't receive it here, so there was no money spent on the grant of these funds. So we, at that time, we were looking back and Councilman Joseph and we were talking about, well, is this something that we could bring back up again? And I said, well, let me do some checking. And so in April of 2013, we went back, pulled our files out, found out where we left off, and made a visit to PEC, who was the engineer of record at the time, to give us an update and see what it would cost if we brought the project back. And at that time, he sent us a letter, and he said that basically for no improvements, the design as is, no admin fees, no land acquisition, it would cost about 1.7, almost 1.8 million dollars for us to do that. Of that, you still had some fees to update the design, basically to re-advertise, get the permits again. So you're looking at $36,000 roughly, and then to do inspections was $24,000. So we're looking at another $60,000 to make the project totally whole. So when I put that down, the estimated cost was $1.8 million. We added, if we did administration, a consultant, I wanted to put that in there, and if we did go through the parish, we wanted to have that figure in there just for being able to do a good budget. So we were at $1,840,000. The eligible amount for this grant today is $800,000 only. So we needed $1,040,000 to make it whole. Now, that is just to do the Lemon Center, the Lemonville area. There was also talk to take it from run a line to the jail, which is not included in this. So we're looking at, if it was $60,000 to design it, and add some addition, just to design, not the construction, we're probably looking, I just put an estimate of 150. So just for talking points. That is not official, it's just, if I had 60, kind of doubled it to see. So we're basically looking at $800,000 in a grant, and we need almost $1,200,000 to try and get this put back together. We can apply again. The funding date is to reapply for 2015. Will be in November of 2015 with the monies coming out in 2016. So that does give us time to start looking at where we're going to get the money from, or do we want to try and go a different route? And that is only at the direction of President Martinez. He's got to tell me to go start this and redo it, and let's see where we can go with it. Our budget has to be intact if we go this, because we've already been here once and didn't have the funds. I would not want us to go back to the state, get a grant, and then not fulfill the project. So we're here to, I'm here to do anything that we can to assist, but we got to have that money, and we got to have the approval for us to move.
Councilman Cluett.
Martha, on this, you said that the grant to possibly go forward would be $800,000.
That's the
Is there
max that we,
stipulations on that, on the use of that?
it's for sewer. It
Can you
is
use it for
strictly for
land
that.
acquisition, or just not?
Yeah, strictly for the laying of lines and stuff. There are
Strictly for
different
infrastructure.
classifications. So if we say we want to run lines and we do this, well, then it's in this type of classification. If you're going to do the treatment center and run lines, then there's a give and take about which section you're in. You're still only at 800,000.
Right, I understand that.
And so I think the land, if I remember, I think there was not a right-of-way issue that we would have to
We have
purchase right-of-way. But the only one that might be an issue is when we go down to bring it to the jail.
Okay, so
That
the,
would be it.
so the 1.82, is that's gonna take the Lemonville and the line to the jail?
Yeah, because I figured, and that's just a rough, I'm not an engineer. I just
No, I
put
just
some
wanted to recap
figures
that
out there
point.
because we had said they wanted to design it, even when Mr. Grant was here, when Cedric was here. It was not included in the original design, and he said it would be $60,000 to actually take it and bring it and tie it into the jail. So I put 150 just roughly, but we'd have to get some fine numbers there to see.
Who's the last time we reviewed what PEC had? Did staff review it?
It was done by, at
engineering
the
and all?
time, it was by Mr. Turner. Mr.
So
Turner
that's how
was-
far back this review
Yes, sir.
was, under
Right.
Mr. Turner.
Uh-huh.
And, so everybody reviewed it, and, there wasn't any gold plating or anything like
No,
that.
sir,
that
it was
You
straight
could try to work
lace.
on this budget, and OJ probably got more background on it, so he'll probably
It
answer
was,
some
it
of my
was,
questions.
it was a simple application because they were putting lift stations. There was no plant being done. I'm talking like I know what I'm doing, but,
Yeah.
you know, it was a simplified version of where we were going and just running the
It was
lines.
trunk lines, tie-ins, and lift stations.
That's exactly it.
No
It
treatment,
was
no
not
treatment
a,
facility.
Treatment was
Big-
gonna be routed to the city.
City.
Right,
right.
thank you.
Councilman Joseph.
Martha, on the USDA portion of it, once again, I understand we would have to put the application in November 15 of next year. What is the timeline to looking at USDA funding, and how much can we get out of it for this project?
I could start today if President Martinez says go start exploring that. I mean, USDA is such a time-intensive thing because we don't know whether you're gonna get it or not.
We talked about it before.
And you have to do everything up front. Now, just like LCDBG, you have to have, they're expecting you to be shovel-ready. They want you to have you pay for the engineering.
What
that
we
portion-
have already.
And we've already paid for that.
Okay.
And we have to pay for the application. At that time, Mr. Roberto Mercado was the one that was doing these, funding these grants. He
Okay,
was
so he
administrator.
in-house.
And he did everything, application-wise, did the surveying, put the whole thing together. So it was a complete package. It's just that it just was, we couldn't get it within ballpark.
Okay.
So we'd have to start from scratch about surveying. I'm sure there's been some changes there, I think I looked up, Councilman Jover, there was an estimated 97 families in that little area. And of that,
104.
81,
Around 104 plus.
81, huh?
104 plus.
That's Lemonville,
That's just Lemonville.
that's just
Okay.
Lemonville.
Well, at the time they did this, maybe there's been some change, and 81 of those families or homes were eligible. So we were looking at the time, 324 people. That's what that area was gonna serve. When you took the families and included that. So I know that's changed, so we'd have to go back and redo, recertify these and,
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just increasing. It's 800 to 1 million. But the other question was, have Martha or administration, I know Mr. Dawson is also working, aware of what is coming up in that area.
Yes.
And how does those numbers will affect what they're doing, what they're planning to do, and how can we, I know that the line from Lemonville to that space right there now is look like it may be being taken up, and look at all those scenarios and then possibilities shortening that distance with the commercial that's coming in that area that will ease some of that cost.
you have to remember.
Mr. Dawson, have you worked with Ms. Martha on this, or
Yeah.
aware of any of this?
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. In fact, last year, I met with PEC, and they talked about, they even updated their numbers. So I think they looked at the old numbers and then updated their numbers, which is exactly what Ms. Collins has said. And we are looking at everything in that area, the growth, the potential growth, and those possibilities, and we're making a review. In fact, I'll be meeting with some of my guys right after this to talk about it. But we are looking at all of the aspects of what's coming up in an area, both in water and sewer, and see, what could be the best possible solution.
Okay.
Councilman Joseph, you know that both of these grants are for low to moderate income to qualify.
And Lemonville
Lemonville,
is the
Lemonville
lowest.
does that, but when you start extending it down to something else, then we can qualify for that section there. When you start moving the
And that's
gun
why
and going this
I
direction.
understand that, Ms. Martha. I
Okay.
understand that. The
Okay.
only thing is, I'm trying to shorten the distance. I have a very real low income area that is eligible for everything.
That's
The
correct.
problem is when I get from that low area to that distant area, is a different cost. Well, now we're looking at commercial that can possibly take up that cost. and that way we can work with the low moderate income community.
You'd want to keep it separate.
Of course,
And
but
so
that's
when
why I'm saying, looking at the numbers and looking at the development in that area,
Sure.
and saying what that cost is and how can we let that cost go to commercial.
Right. No, I understand. It's just that we can't mix them.
I
We-
definitely understand that.
Okay.
I've been through this process before,
I know you have. You
All right.
probably could teach the class on it with
so.
me.
And that's the only thing is, I just see that your portion of the grant of it looking this way, and from a utility point of, on the administration side, utility department, they are already in a process of looking at a couple of things. And I think if we look at them and put some numbers together, I think we can make this happen. With USDA
Mr. Dawson,
funding
right.
and the LCDBG grant.
Okay.
Ms. Martha? We'll make sure I understand a couple of things. Now, with the CDBG money, the grant potential of the money, or the money from the grant potentially is not gonna go up, it's gonna stay at the 800,000?
Yes, sir.
It's not gonna go anywhere.
That's it.
What's the potential revenue from the USDA? What's the
I
max
think it's
potential?
I'm thinking it's a 95.5 match on the USDA funds. I'm not sure on the maximum of what you could to do on that, but it would possibly be more than the LCDBG. So you know, which one are you wanting to do?
Can you piggyback the two?
Well, we can partner with them to see whatever one doesn't pick up, and that's what we intended to do on the other one.
What-
Is when we had the 600,000, whatever the 600,000 didn't cover, USDA would do the difference.
Right.
And so what we'll have to do is do a dual
But that,
stream
the
to be
timeline
able
but
was
that
the
money,
problem.
but that money has to be committed in the budget before USDA, before you apply for it? Is that
Well-
is that one of the other issues I heard?
They come back with the
You have to
questionnaire,
have where you're getting the
pre-questionnaire.
money from and the total cost of the project, or estimated.
Right,
USDA.
USDA, that's the same thing now.
Well, I met with the lady last week, actually. I had to sign a paper about ACUD one, because they wanted to make sure that we were covering the cost over there, because they're worried about their loans that they have outstanding. And the other thing is that they offered more money, but, for another project, but at 3.5% interest. And, I think you can, figure that out. That's pretty steep, but they said they had plenty of money coming, that, if you wanted to borrow some at 3.5%, they'd be happy to give you as much as you want.
Yeah, and that's
If
true.
you got a
Yeah.
qualifying deal, it's gotta be
Right.
for area with 50,000 or less, and, you know,
Right.
it goes on down and down and down. They go by numbers, population, so.
There's two programs that they have a grant program and they have a loan program. We always said loans were out, we only want to do the grant. At the
Grant
time-
75-25.
75-25, okay.
And I-
So,
And I, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead,
may-
Ms. Joseph.
I guess I'm looking at the possibility, all possibility with the information coming with some real numbers, to do the research on it, or do the study on it, to come back with some numbers. And then you can, I mean, I can well inform the community of, here's the situation, if you want sewage, here's all your options. Right now, our option is basically saying there's no funding, and we really don't have an answer for you besides no funding. I would like to have those answers where we can make a decision and present it to the public if they want to pay a $30 or a $50 or a $60 sewage bill. I mean, that's all. So if they say no, it's their option. Not like the last time, we just said we could not do it in a time frame, and we turned the money back. You know?
there was no choice.
Well, at the time, you're right, because
There was no
we
choice
got
for
the
us.
money, we set on the money, and then we tried to go to USDA, and that time frame there was overlapping. So 3 years we had the funding,
We didn't do
state-
anything with it,
right.
basically. I
And
mean,
so
we
this time,
did.
I'm saying, let's get ahead of the ball game
Okay,
and do all the research so we'll know what we can do.
Okay. We can start that, Mr. President, if
If-
you want to direct us to do that. So,
Councilman Kluart.
Yeah, and thank you, Parish President, because we really need to narrow down where's our low-income district, what's the numbers in there, and what that qualifies for. And after we leave out of there with a pipe, it's outside of that money, okay? I'm not sure what all commercial that's coming over there that we see to pay money back or basically tie into. But with the other loans, it's with the rural loan, that's not a good dollar right now. I mean, I don't see.
I
but,
can't say right now, Randy. I would
And-
rather
and,
wait and tell you,
so-
do some
but-
work with the
but to-
utilities and get you a good number. We
Yeah,
just
but
know
to
it's.
give Councilman Joseph something to go back
Uh-huh.
to his folks with is I think that the administration, that y'all, the utilities department could come up with a basic dollar figure, what they're looking at, what's gonna be your monthly bill?
I
Once
think-
we hook on to it, and that's gonna be a deciding factor.
They will pay for the hookup, which means that when this grant pays
Yeah.
for them to be hooked up. But once they're hooked up, if they don't qualify, they have to pay that, and then they start paying the monthly bill.
So
I
you
know
s-
we're already working on a fee schedule,
Yeah.
Mr. Dawson,
I just-
for utilities, so.
I just want a clarification for what you just said. So in other
Mm-hmm.
words, the low income qualifies to where they don't have to pay for the hookup,
That's correct.
and they're not gonna have to pay a monthly bill?
Yes, they will have to pay a monthly
Okay,
bill.
because your verbiage you just had.
Okay.
Maybe you was kind of talking about a couple things. Want to make sure,
Let me restate.
They will have to pay the monthly bill at whatever the parish has
Right.
set, no matter
That's-
what.
No matter what. There's no option.
Okay.
They have to hook up to the
I
parish
mean, I think
utilities.
we've had studies in, different parts, Darrell,
We're going
Prairieville
through-
area. We ran through this committee a lot in the last 2 years, and we kind of got a good idea what somebody's gonna have to pay for a monthly bill for utilities. And it is probably not gonna be that much difference from one area to the other. All right? Because the monthly bill has nothing to do with your income, right? Right?
No, sir.
Okay, I just want to make that clear.
That has
so-
nothing to do with this side.
All right.
The
Thank you, ma'am.
monthly bill is something
That's
else.
a very important part, that we
Right.
need to have those numbers, and those folks need to be aware of that, because in the end of the day, if they can't afford that on a monthly basis, then, we probably shouldn't go forward with this project. I mean, that's part of our problem, in subsidizing
Right.
things, and want to help as many people as we can, but we got to be able to pay our bills at the end of the day.
I personally don't want to get trapped into a good grant or a good loan or something that's going to let us build something, not maintain it, and not keep up with it.
But we're
We
currently.
got to have that payback
We're
somehow.
currently doing
to
that right
support that
now.
budget.
That's correct. With the Dara Hill reveal with the CDBG sewer.
Correct,
That is
yes.
all going in.
That's
It will
right.
be done. They have to hook up. Those that qualify, we'll hook them up. Those that don't, they have to pay. And then there is a monthly fee associated with that
For everybody.
for everybody
And
in that area.
correct, no one is debating that. It's just the only thing is just looking at what's the funding, what is the numbers, and what option does we have. We have looked at the situation and evaluated properly to give the public the proper information, inform them, that's all.
Right.
That's what we
Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. In fact, the utility department have been meeting and talking with the engineer because they're still going through their design phases. And some of the conversation we had is that they weren't sure exactly what was going to be there. There's some expansion, some other possibilities of having other businesses and maybe some other type of residential development coming in. So we're working out all the numbers with the engineer because the entity has an engineer that's going through the design phases, so we're pulling all those numbers together. Once we get them together, we're going to look at the revenue that could be generated by the parish from the customer that's there, including any potential customer that could be brought in through water or wastewater, and then look at what the cost of the project that it's going to take to do it. We're going to maximize any money that we can get from the developers through even our ordinances that said that some developers, there's a certain fee that you have to pay for sewer in the ordinance now. We're going to enforce that, so there's a detailed financial analysis so that everyone is clear of what they're looking at. So, well, where are we now? I mean, Brian, you know where we are right now?
I think one of the main things we're working with now is the developer on those demands and needs. We have the ordinance numbers, we know the numbers of houses that are out there. We have the estimates that came in with the construction costs, with the bids for this project. So we're kind of needing to know what demands and what expansions that the developer's going to do, what they're willing to tell us or work with us on. And that's kind of the sticking point where we're at the moment. You know, we have all the numbers. Without that, that is, yeah, we're kind of waiting on the developer to make those decisions to see what we can do to maximize the use of all fundage. That's kind of where we're at the moment. So all the other numbers are kind of set already. We're just waiting for that direction.
Okay.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'll just keep it on the agenda so we can keep it an open discussion and keep us updated. Hopefully, that, you know, that's all I'm requesting. The information is good.
So Ken, or Brian, about how long do we think how much more time do we need to get this information together to bring back, whether it's a go or a no-go kind of situation? And I mean, I don't want to put you down, say next month it's going to happen, and, you know, some numbers out there. Just
No,
a
I
rough
think-
estimate, 60, 90 days?
Yeah, no, probably, but I would keep it on the agenda, like Councilman Joseph said, so we
Okay.
can update it as we go forward. If we get any more information from the developer, he may or may not tell us everything he wants to tell us. I think that's kind of what we're dealing with, but I can at least put together numbers that we have already and lay that out in a format that's hopefully easily read, so that we can start working from that. And
Okay.
have that at the next meeting.
All right, thank you. Ms. Carter, would you make that happen, please? All righty. Moving on to agenda item number 8, discussion on results of the Engineering Selection Committee for request of qualifications titled Project and Construction Management of Modified P16A Area. Myself and Mr. Dawson. First thing I'd like to do is start out and thank all the companies that participated and responded to the RFQ. We've got a lot of good information in. I'd also like to congratulate and thank President Martinez, Mr. Dawson, for putting together, I would argue, the best selection committee that we've had since we put this process in place. We had a large qualified group of people, or number 5 or 6 people, all engineering types in one shape or form, as well as we were finally able to get a professor from Southern to come in and help us out like we originally tried to plan for with our engineering selection committee. So with that being said, I think we had the best qualified group of folks evaluating this thing, and I would like to personally at this time thank them for their time and efforts put forth into this. I know it was a large task. We had 8, if I remember correctly, responses. 9 responses to the RFQ. So it was a large amount of data to go through. So with that being said, Mr. Dawson, if you would give us a recap of the results of that.
Yes, sir. You have the memorandum in front of you, and to echo what you said, we do appreciate all the efforts. The chairman of the engineering department, Southern University, volunteered his time and said he's willing to do so in the future as well. If you look at the memorandum that you have as part of your package, it talks about who all the companies we received the proposals from. In that, GSA had 437 as the highest score. CSRS was 411. Sigma Consultant was the third at 385. One thing the packages definitely indicated, there were significant timelines put in these packages, details of how things were going to get done, and I think that aided in the review process, because as all of you know in the Utility Committee, our goal was to make sure that this process moved very fast because we have to have all that done so that we move forward further with the application, for the state revolving fund loan. Just to give you another aspect of this, a portion of the scope, it says to assist with the preliminary engineering report and the environmental impact document. We've already received our preliminary engineering report because what we did, and President Martinez approved us going forth and actually getting the company that actually did the overall facility plan to start that process. So we're in the process now of reviewing it from a staff and administration standpoint as we move forward. So we are moving things forward very quickly, and I think that we're on a timeline that could get this process done as fast as possible.
All right. As we talked last month, before we set this meeting, purview of this committee, whether they want to make a recommendation to the full council, we do have a special, just as an announcement, we do have a special council meeting scheduled for Wednesday night, 6 p.m. here, to make a call on this. As Mr. Dawson alluded to, and we've talked about this in the past, this is because of the time frame that we set for ourselves. We're being aggressive and do not want to be the holdup in any of this stuff at all. And so we'll move forward there. Mr. Sadler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to join both Benny and Ken in thanking our professional engineers, Bob, Mike, Huey, Jason, and Ken himself. And particularly, it's been mentioned that, and I want to reiterate that point, it's very important that we had an outsider, not just people inside of the parish that we gainfully employed, but the professor from, engineering professor from Southern University. And in that regard, I'd like to also commend President Tommy Martinez. In the past, everyone I think knows that I was a little concerned about the makeup of these particular committees when maybe we could be using people from the university. I know that's a difficult task, as President Martinez has said in the past, because sometimes these guys don't want to serve. So I'm pleased to see, though, that this time he was able to get that gentleman to come on board, and equally pleased going forward, because following this, we're going to have RFPs and so forth. I'm glad that this guy's agreed to serve again. Also, Chairman Johnson just mentioned moments ago that he thought it was the best makeup ever of an engineering selection committee, and I just want everybody to know, Benny, I concur. Because of the reasons I just gave. I mean, nothing against the attorneys or anything else or other folks that have been served in these committees in the past, but plumbers plumb, I guess, dentists drill your teeth, engineers do what engineers do. That said, it sort of made my job easy, and I'm for a recommendation, and when I'm finished, I'm going to make a motion in that regard to the full council so that we will have then, I think, the weight of both the Engineering Selection Committee and this subcommittee of the full council, the Utilities Committee. I have in the past, and so I did it again. I know a lot of people might think this is necessary. In this case, it's not going to cause any problems. Run a complete statistical analysis on the 9 different engineering firms, who applied for the RFQs, and the 5 different engineer scores that I mentioned a minute ago when I was thanking them. That resulted in a one-way analysis of variance, and what I did to separate after the ANOVA mean scores of these individuals, Ken, I didn't use total points like you, but I averaged it over the 5 scores. I did all possible pairwise comparisons using a Tukey's test. And while that may not be meaningful, I think what's important to note statistically for those who are not adept in that science, this can be done at both a 95 and a 99% certainty level. And what I found was this, that again, there were some tyings at the top end, not so much at the bottom end. But GSA, CSRS has already been mentioned, and Sigma as the top 3 by one-way ANOVA that was verified in Tukey's pairwise mean comparisons. However, this time, unlike last time where we had, like, if everybody remembers, a point or so separating the top 1 and top 2, and actually I think 3 firms, GSA had the highest numerical mean score by a full 5.2 points more than CSRS in second place. And that's on average, so it's important to note that I didn't use total points, I used an average. That's quite a lot. As an old college professor, sometimes 7 points can be the difference between an A and a B grade, quite frankly. GSA was also the top-ranked firm, this would be out of all 9 again, by 4 of the 5 engineers who took a look at the various dossiers. And in fact, the 5th engineer who placed GSA second did so only by a 1 point difference between them and CSRS. Some of the pairwise comparisons also fell more favorably on GSA than CSRS. For example, GSA was statistically superior to BKI at a 99% confidence interval. CSRS was also better than that firm, but only at a 95% confidence interval. GSA outscored SJB, according to our engineers, Stewart Consultant, the third place, by 99% confidence. CSRS did so by 95. And while CSRS was not considered different statistically from SJB, GSA also statistically separated themselves from SJB. So when you add all this together, and let me not also say I painstakingly, as I'm sure every member of this committee did, read each and every one of these 9 proposals. I concur with the engineers. I believe GSA clearly has the best proposal here. I will note things like their intimacy in terms of knowledge of what's going on in the modified P16 area, and some of the other things mentioned by other people probably resulted in them having a little bit of a leg up on some of these companies. I don't want any of these other companies, however, to feel like they were also RANs in any way, because they're not. Lots of folks, again, like last time, I think are qualified to do this. I just believe that GSA has the wherewithal and some of the other things that they talked about in their proposal to get this done. For example, right-of-way acquisition, et cetera, that I'm going to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to recommend to the full council that we go forward with GSA.
Have a motion to go forward or recommend to the full council.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Councilman Joseph. Any other discussion?
Yeah, Ben.
Councilman Kluwer.
Hey, once again, I want to thank the administration and all the staff, all the work y'all put into it. Still think the timelines are tight, okay? It don't matter who's doing it. Thought the initial timelines were tight. I know I'm all good about a timeline, but, it's gonna take a lot of work on everybody's part to get those, and the things that continually come back to us through committee and through the council as we go through our procedures as on the path forward, is gonna have to be pretty good and pass through pretty quick to make things happen in a timely basis. And I think the parish president could probably expand on that, is that there's a lot of pressure put on the people that's gonna be working with us, both here for the program management and for the projects down the road in design and construction. And I still think, I'm hoping we're gonna do good with acquisition, and that's still in the back of my mind, and it's just one of the things that can block the road down there and hold the project up. Kick us with about 20 or better %. We just got through talking about your project across the river, that every time you go back and look at it, you can add another $500,000 on it, and it just grows, and you want to go back and ask people that's designing it, are you crazy, but no, they're not crazy. That's the change. It's moving. So once again, I want to stress the timelines. It's going to take the same team to continue to work together to do this. And I appreciate your effort, appreciate y'all stepping up to the bat on this. Thank you.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes, I just want to elaborate with Councilman Kluwer. And Benny, and I know what we're going to have is a lot of special meeting, because things going to come up, and the public need to know this changed the whole dynamic of how we meet. I mean, things going to come up, and we can probably see the utility district meeting more often than you ever seen before, because 1 week from the next week, timeline going to come up, and they're going to be, yes, we need approval. So I just want to make the public aware of timeline and meeting with the utility going to be a whole lot more in the future. So
Can I have another
Councilman
second?
Kluwer.
I just want to throw the emphasis on the credibility of the information that's going to come to us in a quick moment, okay? To where we can't look at it and say, I never seen this before. We can't look at it and say, well, what about this? What about that? Good, clean information coming forward with recommendations from administration and staff, and whomever turns out to be our project manager. Thank you.
Yeah, also, and me and President Martin, as well as Mr. Dawson, have talked about this in the past. I mean, we want to do this as expeditiously as possible, but we don't want to do it at the cost of accuracy. I think everyone here can attest to the fact that one of the things we keep reiterating over and over again is that we've got one shot at this to gain the people's trust and do what needs to be done, and it has to be done right the first time. And there will be no excuses. This is the difference between whether or not this project goes beyond this or whether it stops right here. And we all understand the ramifications of that. And that's one of the things that I emphasize to everybody I get in touch with and talk about sewer is that, you know, it's while we have a time crunch, or we're putting ourselves with a very aggressive time schedule, we don't want to sacrifice accuracy, and we don't want to sacrifice the doing this the right way. It's not about just getting it done to get it done. It's about getting it done to get it done right. And we can't emphasize that enough. It's the importance of the selection of the full council is very important in making sure that, you know, we get this right the first time. And as Councilman Joseph and Councilman Kluwat alluded to, yes, we will have, I'm sure, several meetings, more than just once a month, to get this stuff done where we need to from a council perspective. We will work very closely with the administration to make sure that we get the information out as timely as we can. I can guarantee you from my part, you're going to be probably hearing from me more than you want to be hearing from me. But we are going to do what we can to try to make sure that everybody has the information they can and understand that this is not about a he said, she said kind of thing. It's about making sure that we hold true to our timeline that we set for ourselves. And we're all going to need to cooperate to get that done. And so it's about teamwork. It's about understanding what everybody's roles are and playing those roles out. Starting after Wednesday, we'll be starting with the contract negotiation and doing that in a timely fashion to make sure that we can get this team put in place and get them to start working, because there's a lot of different things that have to take place pretty quickly as far as hydraulic modeling and all this other kind of stuff to do some of the things that we've talked about in the past of where we can design and build it today to meet the needs of the future. We definitely want to take advantage of that, and one of the ways we're going to be able to figure out whether we can or not is through our hydraulic modeling. That will save us money down the line to where we don't have to go in and replace new pipe with bigger pipe because we're adding on to the system, and the new pipe or the pipe that's existing can't handle the flows. Like we've talked in the past, you can't put the pipe needed for 20 years down the road because it's not going to hydraulically work today. So you got to put the pipe in that works today, and then come back 20 years from now, and whatever that system needs to be upgraded. So, but we want to try to take advantage where we can, financially as well as from a standpoint of view of what we can do to save time and money later on in this project. Because again, the whole goal with this is not just this one area. It's the east side of the parish as much as financially and feasibly possible to put sewer for. So with that, without further ado, is there any other discussion?
We need to call for a vote.
Any opposition to that motion? Hearing none, that motion passes and will be sent on to the full council for Wednesday night's meeting. That being said, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Councilman Sadler, second by Councilman Kluwat. We are adjourned. Thank you.